Good day, everybody out there. It's a couple minutes after 5, and it is 18th of October, 2025. It's Saturday, and I've got it. I don't have the, the usual camera on, so anyway. Yes, it's late in the afternoon, and of course I know that this bench, somebody will be sitting on this bench, as they always are. I don't know what it is. If everybody likes, yeah, see it right there. They love to sit on this bench and you can't get them off. They sit there for hours and hours and hours. I just do a video when I go there. Otherwise, I'd rather be walking and sitting on, planting my backside on a bench or something. See? Oh, no, I can't show you here. I gotta show this way. Smoking some weed, I guess. So, there's another bench there. Somebody's there. Ground's kind of wet. Otherwise, I'd sit up against a tree. Over there, you get too close to the road, and it's feel like I have to yell. Oh, maybe I'll sit right here. Hopefully, it's dry. I think it's dry. Yes. Ah, reminds me of the army. Sitting like this. Okay. So, some of the breaking news, kind of. It's, how do I say this? Trump has made a U-turn, and he's not supplying the Tomahawk missiles to Zelensky or to Ukraine at this moment. You know, you never know, it could happen in the future. He's just using that as a threat. And yeah, Dmitry Medvedev had something to say about it. He's basically saying in his tweet that it was actually Trump was playing global public opinion with it. He's playing people. So, and he says part of his evidence for that is that even, you know, crazy Joe Biden, insane Joe Biden, was smart enough not to give that sort of a thing to Zelensky. But you never know. Trump gave javelins, and I don't know. Well, anyway, what did Biden send? He sent F-16s, didn't he? And he sent Abrams. So the whole name of the game is escalation, as you all know. And I don't know. It's... Anyway, I'll get to Medvedev a little bit later, but anyway, Medvedev believes that this is not going to stop. He says it's going to continue as it is. I am hopeful that it's going to be the end. Trump seems to be hopeful. There's different personalities inside of Trump. Trump, part of him is the peacemaker, like I said, and the other thing, it's sort of like a split personality. And I'll have something also to say about that. Gosh, I don't know how I'm so accurate on these things, because Alexander Dugin said something very similar to that, and so I'm going to save that to the end of this video. I got to keep going. It's a lot of information here to put out. So, what is this? You could possibly say, if there is going to be a peace deal coming out, it would be an October surprise, but it would be a positive October surprise. Something that doesn't really happen. It's normally something negative. I don't know, at least starting with the Russian Revolution in 1917. October Revolution. So we'll see what happens. But anyhow, if there is a peace, it's not going to materialize until November. Trump seems to be lining up a very busy schedule for November. He wants to meet Kim Jong-un and this guy and the other guy, and who knows. And he wants to meet Putin in Budapest, I guess, within the next 2 weeks. So we'll see if that happens too. Anyway, it looks like it's going to happen. Just when is going to happen? That is the difficult part right now, and it's supposed to be being hashed out by Mark Rubio and Sergei Lavrov. So we'll see. Okay, but what else? Oh, look at that! I scared somebody away from that bench. I can go sit back there if I want to. Now that I planted my backside against the tree. So, but anyhow, as he comes, there she goes. Probably pissed off. She probably thought she had some peace and quiet there. I'm going to do this again. Maybe I'll sit on a tree right next to that bench sometime. I want somebody to move. You know, it's kind of like farting in an elevator. You know, if you want an elevator to yourself. Yeah, anyway. So, Anyway, this ceasefire, or whatever you want to call it, between Hamas and Israel, just probably temporary anyway. It looks like Israel has already killed quite a few people. They bombed a car yesterday, or was it last night? Or anyway, within the last 24 hours, they bombed a car. All civilians, killed 11 people. And of course, that's not the only time they killed. I already mentioned it last time. I don't even remember the particulars. They killed some younger people or something. Stepped over some line, so they shot and killed them all. And Judge Napolitano, he was on some show in Russia, by the way. I think he was here for the RT 20th anniversary, Russia Today news channel. They had their 20th anniversary, and it was just in the past days. A lot of people there. A lot of people. I'll get to that. Alexander von Bismarck, it's the great-grandson, I guess, of Otto von Bismarck was there, and I guess maybe it was the grandson or whatever. Charles de Gaulle was there. A lot of other big shots were there. A lot of people in global recognition, global families and things like that. And a lot of people talking about the fact that the United States banned RT. You know, the freedom of speech, right? Freedom of the press. So all of Europe, for the most part, they banned RT. And it's very strange because now even a lot of the West are saying that the global audience of RT in just the 20 years is far bigger than the audience of any of these channels, to include CNN and Fox. It's far bigger than those audiences worldwide. So it's in, what is it? I think they even mentioned it. How many billions of people watch RT? But let's keep going. I'm still straying and I'm getting ahead of myself here. Yeah, and we were, you're still thinking about this Peace Prize. The Peace Prize was won by this woman down there who was in the opposition, begging Donald Trump to bomb her country. I mean, what more of a fitting person to get the Peace Prize than somebody begging for their own country to be bombed? It's absolutely incredible. And I was looking, there was a list of a lot of the people that got these Peace Prizes in the past, since the year 2000. And most of them were people in opposition and basically warmongering globalists. So I guess the word is that you pretty much have to be a globalist. So a lot of people, what are they calling it? The Nobel War Prize, I guess a lot of people are saying. You have to be some kind of anyway, you have to be in that clique, I guess, before you're going to get the Nobel Peace Prize nowadays. I don't know. It seems like it might have even started with Joe Biden, obviously a globalist. He was a globalist even back then. Yeah, I think even there's evidence of that in his book, The Dreams of My Father, or whatever the deal is. One of the companies he mentions that he worked for is a CIA front company, and it's a very well-known fact where Joe Obama worked. Parents were CIA. I won't talk about his mother, You'll hear some things about that on your own. But, I don't know. So, let's keep going here. So anyway, this result, there was a telephone call, as you know. I should have been talking about the telephone call. I didn't even mention that. There was that telephone call, as you guys know, between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And I guess a lot of the main fruits of that conversation, I guess, seems to be kind of secret. And Donald Trump is very, very optimistic that there might be a peace. And there are a lot of things that are different about this. You don't have the snowman and the seven dwarfs this time. Remember when they all went and lined up there and Donald Trump and pressured him and pushed and pushed and pushed, to, get more involved in the war. And I guess Trump didn't really want to so much back then, but, he was under pressure at that time. And this time it's going to be different. You're going to have Viktor Orban, who is, he is not necessarily pro-Russian, but he is not anti-Russian. So that's why he's a Putin agent, because he's not anti-Russian. And then, of course, Putin is also going to be there. I wonder if Robert Fico is going to be there from Slovakia. Then it would be kind of like, you got a bunch of these people that want peace, and they're not anti-Russian. So that makes them Putin agents. So anyway, you guys all know the deal. So let's see that okay, anyway. Anyway, that's I think it was the words U-turn, that Trump making a U-turn, because he had basically, he said he made a decision. He said this maybe 2 weeks ago, that he made a decision and he was going to send these Tomahawks to Ukraine. But he said, oh, I first have to find out what they're going to be used for. And that's another tweet, remember? Dmitry Medvedev. Oh, they're going to bomb Berlin and London and Warsaw. No, of course they're going to be bombing Russia with it. And of course they can easily hit Moscow. They can fire beyond. Anyway, I've said this already before. So, and it's a devastating weapon, even though it's very slow. It's probably very visible on the radar, and Russia will shoot them down, and they will destroy the location of where these things are fired from. Maybe Trump might even know that. Maybe Trump just kind of plays a little bit ignorant at times, you know? It's kind of strange about Trump, as we have all been saying, so many of us. Oh no, somebody else is going to probably grab that bench. Oh, dear God. Oh no, he went right past it. Maybe I'll get up there and sit down. I haven't even hardly got anywhere in my notes yet. So, yeah, that meeting will probably take place in November, this Budapest peace summit, which is exactly what it is. Yeah, but anyway, Zelensky is not going to be there. Even though Trump said he's going to stay in frequent contact with Zelensky during the course of this meeting, who knows if it's going to be a couple days or what the deal is. But it's pretty obvious, you know, that the ones that should be making the deal is the United States and Russia, because I think even Marco Rubio admitted this is a proxy war. This is a proxy war of the United States against Russia, obviously. There's some people walking. Hey, they got a kid. But I'm going to sit on that bench anyway, where I can't get it. Because that's where everybody wants to go. It's kind of strange. It's the only bench that has a backrest. And there's a park, very nice park, just almost across the street. And it also has benches with no backrest. Nobody wants to sit on them, you know? It's a little bit damp in some places. Like I said, it rained. Okay, Dookie, keep going. Keep going. It's getting late. It's starting to get dim and dark here already. So, but the elephant in the room here, the elephant in the room. We always have to notice that big elephant. You know, we can't act like it's not there. And anyway, the elephant in the room is that Putin has also noticed, you know, ways to not manipulate, but ways to encourage Donald Trump, or finds out what Donald Trump, you know, obviously, what not pushing his buttons, but you know what Donald Trump likes. You know, he's not going to call him daddy, that's for sure. But I think what I'm getting at with Putin is that he wants peace. He wants peace. That's very clear. Zelensky, it's not that he outright wants war, but he wants to be victorious. And of course, he wants all that territory back. He wants to at least appear that he didn't lose, that it was all worthwhile, and all his people, there's hundreds of thousands that are dead, they can all be damned as far as he's concerned. He doesn't give a crap about that, you know, but he doesn't want to look like a loser. He wants to be the big Zelensky and be the victorious leader, and he wants Putin to go to war crimes tribunal, when of course it is not Zelensky himself that started it. I mean, Zelensky should also go to war crimes tribunal, along with Petro Poroshenko, and along with a lot of people in the United States, Victoria Nuland and so many of them, because they started this war. They're the ones that wanted this war. They wanted to conquer Russia and get in and divvy up the resources and things like that. You can say that a lot of the Western European countries are all complicit in that as well. You guys know, of course. So why do I want to keep repeating the same sort of stuff? You guys all know this stuff. So, but anyway, Putin, I think, is going to use Putin's ego to try to bring about an end to this war. And you see the elements of that already forming. You know, they started talking about this, what do you call it? You want to call it the peace tunnel? And it's very possible. I started thinking, you know, not Donald Trump, Putin, he actually wants peace. And I don't think that he cares, about getting any credit for this tunnel. Russia's going to get a lot of credit anyway because they're the ones that envisioned it. I guess they started talking about this 6 months ago, looking at the feasibility of making a tunnel. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, a tunnel between Alaska and Russia, an undersea bed tunnel. So it would be in the soil below the bottom of the seabed, running to Russia, and from Alaska. And Donald Trump, he's only said so far, it's interesting. He asked Zelensky, "What do you think of that?" And I think, what did Zelensky said? "I don't like it." He said, or "I hate it," or "I'm not happy with that." Obviously, and it kind of tells you something. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. But one interesting thing is that as soon as Putin talked to Donald Trump, Putin was contacting many relevant people to talk about undersea rare earth mineral mining. That's interesting, isn't it? Undersea. So in other words, below the ocean, in the soil below, where there might be some rare earth minerals, which Donald Trump really needs. It's not that Russia really needs them. China really doesn't need them either, because they basically have a corner on the market, a 95% corner on all the rare earth minerals and how to process them. And nobody else in the world knows how to do it except for the Chinese. But anyway, Donald Trump, he wants these rare earth minerals, and he's looking all over the place. And it's strange, once he made that deal with Zelensky, that's when Zelensky rushed down into South Africa, and he bought himself the controlling shares of the mining industry of the entire country of South Africa. So mining's a big one in the next near future. Some time ago, as you all know, that it was pipelines. As maybe you can go back 30 years when Pepe Escobar wrote Pipelinistan. And obviously before that it was just oil in general. And wow, this is so in the near future we're going to maybe see everybody start going for mining. So, and at the present time, and of course this is going to end very soon, it might even end in the next day or so, that China has practically put a block on getting rare earth minerals to the United States. So you can also realize that Donald Trump is really going to want to put some pressure on the recovery of rare earth minerals. Yeah. And let's see what else. And I'm hoping that part of this deal, if there's something going to be going on between Putin and Trump as far as getting peace, I'm hoping that part of this would include maybe trying to get this straightened out with what's going on in Venezuela, because one of the last boats that were hit, as we all know, it's all also been proven, even though maybe a lot of you out there haven't heard, just because it hasn't reached the mainstream media and they don't want it to, but one of those boats, at least one of those boats, was just fishermen. They were just fishermen. They had no drugs, had nothing to do with drugs. I think there were 6 of them, and they killed them all, and it caused the commanding admiral of Southcom to resign. So, but I'll get to that a little bit more. So hopefully, since Putin gets along with Maduro, that maybe they can broker something there. And it is absolutely true, apparently, that Maduro offered everything, all the resources of Venezuela, to Donald Trump. Because as we all see, that Maduro has not, I don't know, by choice or any other reason, they have not really been developing a lot of their resources. And a lot of people believe, of course, that Venezuela has more oil than any country on earth. They're the biggest oil-rich region, that area right there, than anywhere in the world. But of course there's oil underneath Port-au-Prince and Haiti, but that's supposed to be a big secret. But unfortunately it's under the main city, but all around that area. And Mexico has pretty much run out of oil, is that what they say, in the Mexican Gulf? Kind of strange, I don't know. How can that possibly be? So, but that's what they say. Uh, so the catch in all of this, in actually both of these wars, the big catch, as well as in Venezuela, is the military-industrial complex, which is obviously the main power driving Western politics. Um, and it was also disclosed, if you guys have been watching the news, and I think it even got to a certain extent. Of course, it's kept hush, hush, hush as much as possible, trying to make the story die out as fast as possible, that Boris Johnson was involved in this huge piece of corruption. Wow. And he's tied in with the military-industrial complex. He got paid $1 million for essentially making sure that the peace between Russia and Ukraine was defeated. So he got $1 million for that through military-industrial complex to make sure the war keeps going. Wow. Probably making these promises to Zelensky. And of course, at least, I don't know, at least a few 100,000 people have died since then. As a matter of fact, the majority, it's probably at least 1 million people died. At least 1 million people died since that. I mean, just on the side of Ukraine alone. Since Ukraine revealed, I think it was over a month ago, that by that time 1.7 million people, or men, soldiers, had died in that war. Wow. Was it died or just were taken out of the war, maybe with serious injuries? I'm not sure anymore. So, let's see. I don't know, makes you wonder if Boris Johnson is going to ever show his face again. Wow. And I'm also asking myself, well, what did Zelensky get paid? We all know that Zelensky, he wants a cut of the action, baby. I want a cut. I want my cut. What's my cut? Yeah, if I facilitate this, what cut? What is going to be my cut? Wow. Well, and it's a little bit possible. I'm thinking that maybe this revelation of Boris Johnson's corruption is not maybe a little bit of a motivating factor for Donald Trump to probably, also wanting to end this thing, because that's the allies of the United States, Great Britain. As we know, Great Britain is the one they're also very, very, very big into this Ukraine war. Very, very big, far more than the Germans or even the French. We saw French soldiers there. I don't know if we saw any regular military British soldiers, but it's undeniable that France sent some of their soldiers there. I'm talking about those that are employed by the government, and just like Poland did as well. And they're trying to be very secret about it. I tell you what, I've been in this kind of stuff, and I know it when I see it, and I promise you, those governments were involved. The United States government had soldiers, much more. They still have soldiers there, and everybody's, don't say who is firing off the HIMARS and who's doing all this and who's, they're there. They're definitely there. Maybe in smaller numbers. Poland had quite a few numbers. I think France had at least a whole battalion there. Remember when something was bombed and they needed extra people? This was in the Ukraine side of the Donbass, and these people were sent to these hospitals, and the Ukrainian nurses and doctors there couldn't do that much because all these soldiers were all French. I wonder how that can be. Oh. They didn't say French and English and Polish or whatever. They said French. So that was a French unit there. And my unit worked with some of the French, I guess you'd say, commandos and things. And the French at that time were the best. They were better than the Americans. And that was during the Cold War. That was the height of the Cold War, when America was even supposed to be the best. And for the most part, they were beating our guys in my battalion. So, so let's see. But let's see. And what I was going to say, and then I saw this from Alexander Dugin. I was saying that it's going to be ending the war will be a big sacrifice for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, he is also connected to the military-industrial complex. So I wrote this before I read what I'm going to be telling you about Alexander Dugin at the very end of this. So he's tied in with military-industrial complex. You know that. Everybody knows that. I mean, just anyway. Say no more. So it's going to be a sacrifice to him if he will end this war as well. You know, but I don't know that he actually ended this war in Palestine, so you can get that that's going to keep going. But if he actually does end this war and that one also ends, that is a sacrifice. That is actually, I would have a lot of respect for Donald Trump, because those are a lot of the time people that do him this political favors are these people in the military-industrial complex, you know. Jeez, what a mess. I tell you what, I wouldn't even want to be investigating and looking into this stuff. I tell you what, it's probably so many reporters that know a lot, but they're not going to say anything because, you know, they might, their time on Earth might be shortened quite a bit. Terrible. Trust me, these are not very good people. And you mess with people's money, or you mess with their notoriety in their careers, and a lot of these people, they go ballistic on you. Like, say for example, there is a very what is it called, an ambitious officer or something like that. Like, matter of fact, it happened to me, and it's like, what the heck, why is this guy so really this guy was a major, and he was so pissed off at me. You couldn't even believe how pissed off he was. He actually made my life miserable for many months after that, until I got out of the Army, all the way up to that time. And I didn't even do anything to him. I did nothing, absolute zero to him. Maybe he recommended me for some sort of a thing, and some 4-star general didn't like the way I did something and told him that, and because he recommended me, maybe that's all I can guess. And so anyway, get it. So I might have mentioned already that Israel did probably its biggest bombing of the year against Lebanon. I guess, how many? Within a couple minutes, 20 strikes, massive strikes over a huge area in southern Lebanon. Absolutely devastating. How many died? I don't even know. Just massive, massive destruction. And they had just video footage of it. You know, the huge area. We're talking like maybe half a kilometer long of nothing but huge bombardment, and really with big bombs. No. Yes. Somebody talking over there. Okay. What was I? Why did I? Let's see what I wrote here. I don't even know. I wrote this earlier. Zelensky was begging Trump for Tomahawk missiles, and even in this visit by Zelensky, he was there, and obviously he wants some Tomahawks, and he even promised an exchange for drones. And like I've been saying, and a lot of people don't really maybe talk about it enough, but I was saying how important this is. I was saying this many months ago, that Ukraine is loaded with drones. They have far more drones than Russia. And I was believing maybe, because I didn't hear anything for maybe a month or so, and I was thinking maybe they don't as much anymore. Russia was bombing a lot of their factories, but apparently that's not true. I was also mentioning the fact that, you know, they get thousands and thousands and thousands of drones from their so-called partners. Thousands of drones come from Australia alone that is getting sent to Zelensky. And then the Baltics, they're sending a lot of drones, lots of drones. And Zelensky was saying basically they have so many drones, they're up to their ears in drones. They have massive amounts of drones, endless amount of drones. And do you remember he was complaining, Iran is giving drones to Russia? And of course that wasn't even true. It was true before the war. They got some drones from Iran. And then they copied them. And then I guess Zelensky's trying to make everybody think that Iran is, you know, giving drones to Russia, when it's actually just a copy of the what is it, Sahil or something, and it's I don't care about it. Anyway. It looks like a Iranian one. So yeah, he said right in that meeting with Donald Trump, he can send thousands of drones to the United States in exchange, but what he needs is these long-range missiles. Of course, and he wants to do some heavy destruction. And of course, he wouldn't be the one that's actually sending them anyway. It would be the United States. So I don't really understand. He just basically wants to see death, destruction. He thinks he can conquer Russia. And I'll tell you what, it's a very hopeless case. And even, like I said, Tulsi Gabbard said that, right away. Before the war was more than 2 weeks old, she said, it's not, Ukraine cannot match Russia. No way, shape, or form. So maybe Ukraine might even have more drones than soldiers, because they seem to have a manpower shortage, as you all know. Yeah. So, like I said, the biggest obstacle to the peace is the military-industrial complex. Yeah. And it's that's part of it, making these drones. And these people, they want the money. And of course, their faces aren't shown. These people that are making all these weapons and stuff, they're just collecting the money. And of course, it does provide some jobs in the United States, and it also provides some sort of money. But when you think about the weapons industry, as opposed to actually producing things and trading it and selling it and just exchange amongst other countries, if you are in the weapons industry, for example, it's almost the same. If I can make an analogy, think about this. You reach into your right pocket. Oh, there's no money. I'm broke. So then you say, oh well, I got $1,000 in my left pocket. So you transfer some of that or all of that into your right pocket. You reach into your left pocket. Oh, I'm broke again. So that's how that really works. It's like you're not, if you're not selling those weapons abroad, for example, you're just making them for yourself, and they get liquidated in warfare, or they get obsolete and you throw them away. It's really not really getting you rich, just at the very beginning. But it's like just transferring your money from your left pocket to your right pocket in most cases. And you want to actually be sending these things abroad. That's one reason why I guess the United States sends a lot of weapons abroad, but they need a lot for themselves. Donald Trump said, we need pretty much all of those Tomahawks. Yeah, 4,150. He says he needs them. He needs them all. And he said he was planning on having some sent down to Venezuela, to use against Venezuela. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but anyhow, you get the idea. And yeah, when they're gone, they're gone. Not even being sold for the most part. Maybe when they get old and obsolete, you can sell them. That's maybe a smarter move. Yes. Zelensky was caught unprepared when he went over to Washington. I should have mentioned that at the beginning. Can you imagine getting on the plane, salivating he's going to get his Tomahawk missiles, and by the time he lands in Washington, D.C., it's like, so things have changed. Vladimir Putin gave me a call, and I think we can maybe work things out. So our date is canceled, or anyway. What the heck? What page am I on now? Did I already get to this far? Let's see. Wow, I'm moving right along. Good. I don't know, as long as it's not going to be a piss plan, like I said, Zelensky and his piss plan. So, you decided to start up a piss plan with Putin. Yes, but anyway, you know what he's going to say, obviously. Like he said last couple times, there will be no piss unless Ukraine is involved in the piss process. I'll hold it for you, Donnie. And then you think about, why do some of these leaders in Europe, the people all want peace, but why do these leaders want war? Yeah, they're salivating, and of course they want whatever Ukraine has. They think they're going to get all this stuff. I don't know. We're going to get some riches. We're going to get Russia's minerals. Yeah. But that's another point I got to remember to talk about, that nobody has yet ponied up and said they want to pay for these Tomahawks anyway, and that could also be a contributing factor why Donald Trump is actually dragging his feet a little bit. Not only whatever Putin told him on the telephone, but the United States wants payment up front for these Tomahawks, and nobody has stepped forward. And maybe Zelensky is going to say, "Put it on my tab, Donald. Put it on my tab." No, buddy. Jeez. And you think about it, even in Europe, I wonder how the people would feel about that if somebody made it very clear to them what is actually going on. If Donald Trump did not demand payment up front, because then it would be like some borrowed money, and what it would turn out to be is maybe the great-great-grandchildren of those people running around today will still be paying for the Tomahawk missiles, depending on how much gets sent there. Anyway, they're like that anyway. It's going to be a whole generation at least paying for all of the money that they sent to Ukraine. That's what's sickening, and I don't even know. You have to drill that into the Europeans' head how bad that really is. And then you see all this austerity and things that are going on in a lot of places. There's even huge austerity in Argentina, and they didn't even put so much. They did send some things to Ukraine. That Milei guy, he's in love with Zelensky. He likes Trump too. He's a knucklehead guy anyway. Got some Pushkin sideburns. He thinks he might be Pushkin, but he probably doesn't like the Russians. Anyway, looks like Pushkin. Maybe if they make a movie about Pushkin, they can put Milei from Argentina in there. But I don't know. Pushkin didn't speak any Spanish as far as I know, or whatever they speak in there. So. I was saying something about the Baltic states. Those people, they probably are in favor. I think those people have all been conditioned to hate. Not all the people, but a lot of them in there to hate Russians. So I don't know, like some of those in the western part of Ukraine, or how the Israelis, most of them are conditioned to hate any kind of Arabic types peoples. Terrible how the world works, isn't it? Brainwashed. I don't know if they're frightened. I don't know. I tell you what, if I was in the Baltics and I had a bunch of belligerent leaders like that, I'd be frightened. I wouldn't want to live there. You're going to get us all killed. Yes, but that's going to be strange to see whatever it comes about. I wonder if Donald Trump can handle that pressure. He would actually really be incredible if he actually does try to, and really gets very close, or at least the majority of inking out a peace deal in Budapest. Because, like I said, it is a proxy war. It's the United States against Russia more than anything else. Donald Trump, how many people have said this? And it's very obvious. He can just cut off the weapons. He cuts off the weapons, cuts off the money. Ukraine is gone. I'll tell you what, Vladimir Putin would know it, and he would say, okay, well, 2 more weeks, it's over, which is about the way that it is. I think American people are even paying the pensions for the Ukrainian people. Jeez. Yes, okay. I said all that stuff. But if Zelensky, because Donald Trump is going to be talking to him during the course of this peace process, peace process, Zelensky's going to probably reject everything. Makes me wonder. I think you have to put a little, what we would say, a fire under his ass, and make him realize that this is the end. You either go for peace, or you better chalk up your own piss plan and go by, piss your pants or something like that. Yeah. Robert Fico yesterday, he said something very interesting. He said about Russia. He said, about all the West and these people in Europe and what they're trying to do to Russia. He said the only time, they're trying to bring Russia to their knees, to a strategic defeat, bring Russia to its knees. He said the only time Russia goes to its knees is to tie its shoes. He said that's something that these people need to understand. And Donald Trump, he was understanding that at the beginning of this. He might still understand that. Maybe he's just playing like he lost part of his memory or something like that. I don't know. If he's starting to go against Russia, he's going to be made a fool of at some point in time, especially when he gets these Tomahawks and watch them all get destroyed. Probably going to be easier to destroy them than it will be to destroy an Abrams. The only difference is that if a Tomahawk missile does get through, that can be very, very, that can destroy the entire refinery, not just 20% of it, but 100% of it. So, but as I said, they're slow. And then Russia, I believe, some people are saying that we will treat it as if it has a nuclear warhead on it. And what that would mean is Russia's going to launch one right back. That's not a good idea. So, and but you have to think, one reason why, of course, that Ukraine has been continuing all of this is because they're getting huge support from the European Union and the United States. But it makes you wonder if they have any kind of a little bit better productive capacity and an arms of their own, and didn't have to it's unsustainable what they're doing right now. They have to depend on all these other countries. But if they had their own, you've got to realize that Ukraine has always been a part of Russia. And I said already many times, I said the word Ukraine means on the edge of Russia. So it was always a part of Russia. That was the beginning of Russian political history, was Kiev. That was the first capital of Russia. And the people that are, under the jurisdiction of the capital, Kiev, were called Russians. So it makes you really wonder why they don't just call themselves Russians and say that those people ruled from Moscow are actually something else. Very interesting sort of thing there. So I was talking about the tunnel. Putin should just suggest it just be called the Trump Tunnel. I don't think Putin really gives a damn. Just call it the Trump Tunnel. And that will be actually maybe, working on Donald Trump's ego a little bit, and kind of mix that in with a peace plan, But it's important to let Donald Trump know that he's not being defeated. And Donald Trump is trying to make it look like he's not involved, which he is involved. He's on the side of Ukraine, and everybody knows that. I'll get into that even a little bit more. You've heard of Pearl, P-U-R-L. So anyway, that was Donald Trump's idea, but I'll get to that in a bit here. So the Trump Tunnel. I don't know. Like I said, that Putin was also talking right away to somebody after his conversation with Trump about rare earths. It makes you wonder if they know something about what's on the seabed down there. And I think it was Dmitry Kirill of Russia. He was suggesting that Elon Musk get involved in that Elon Musk has a boring machine, and he can, I think I mentioned it yesterday, maybe, that he can do it for far less money, bore underneath the sea there. So wouldn't that be incredible? That would talk about a legacy in the future. That the tunnel, that it was envisioned by Vladimir Putin, Donald Trump, and facilitated or came about by Elon Musk. Elon Musk, whatever he does, that he will be very well known for that. A lot of things can fade, but the tunnel is part of infrastructure, a magnificent project, and he will be forever in history. That'll probably be around 100 years from now. Just saying. Yes. But what I was mentioning about Zelensky didn't like the idea about this tunnel. Kind of makes you wonder. It has nothing, absolutely nothing, absolutely zero to do with Ukraine. So why should it bother him? Why should it bother Zelensky? So him being so angry about it, I'll tell you what, if this was something to do with Ukraine and the United States, Vladimir Putin would say, that's great, I'm all for it. I would love to see that. But not Zelensky. He wishes ill will on the Russian people, on Russia and the Russian people. He's a very selfish guy. That shows that right there. A vicious and a selfish guy. It shows that he just wants victory, and he wants recognition. I mean, it doesn't have anything good in that. Saying, oh, I don't want to see anything to signify, even if it's just symbolic. And who knows what's going to happen. I mean, will that lead to anything? I'll tell you what. I think Putin's very good at this sort of stuff, and he knows that will bear bigger fruits. That will bring quite a bit to that region at some point in the future. And if you saw where Trump and Putin were meeting at the airport in Alaska, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful place. Makes me want to go there. It really does. you know, I've been to Alaska, but I didn't get out on the mainland and go. I was in a different part. I was on Aleutian Islands. I think I told you guys about that. It was on a small island called Sand Point. It's not far from. There's an island called Cold Bay. Cold Bay was a major airfield. You can land a 747 there. It was a major airfield in World War II. Anyway, I got way too many stories. So, anyway, that tunnel, for the most part, at the beginning at least, it's going to be symbolic, mostly symbolic. Cost a fortune. Even if Elon Musk can lower the cost significantly, it's still going to be a lot of money. And there was somebody talking about that, and I will mention that in another video tomorrow. It's economists talking about China, Russia, places like Belarus, and building infrastructure projects like that. And he was in China. Wolf was his name, this economist. You guys probably know him. Can't remember his first name. Guy with glasses. But he's talking about these trains, how expensive and how good they are in China, far, far beyond anything the United States is making. And he said, of course, the United States can do that. They can do it, but they don't do that. And he was talking about the difference. And of course, he was talking about China, but I can extend that to Russia and Belarus as well. They build all this stuff for the people. And so the infrastructure is for the people, building and the economy. So they use the economy for people. And in the United States, they make the people make the economy. Not, I'm not sure exactly how to say this, and I don't want to be going like this for too long. But anyway, it's backwards compared to the West. That's one reason why the West is faltering, and a lot of these Eastern countries are doing much better. And infrastructure, you don't really get the money back from that, but Russia puts the money into this infrastructure. And the United States, they don't have that same attitude necessarily. Trump does a little bit more. You know, he was building that pipeline, and then Biden shut it down. What a friggin' idiot. But anyhow, that's how that is, you know. So, I can't remember what that is called. Anytime somebody tries to do something in the United States, a great infrastructure project, you know, they goes into infighting, and they start fighting against each other. Then you got that stupid bridge that was getting built in Alaska. I don't even think it was things called the Bridge to Nowhere. That was I don't know, 40 years ago. And that's a bridge that doesn't ever get used. Expensive bridge. I don't know. It has to have some kind of a purpose, at least, to it, and or that you can make some kind of a purpose. Anyway, I shouldn't get into this stuff. Yeah, but anyway, Zelensky. I was trying to just say his decisions are based more on hatred rather than practicality, peace, or anything else. He's out for, you know, he's got different things in mind. You know, people like us, subscribers that watch this, you would think, oh, this is for your people, this is for peace, you know, this is to facilitate something. But he's got something else in his head, and I'd have to sit back and think of what the heck, why is this guy against progress and things like that. Anyway, and as you know, he's got a drive for personal wealth as well. He said on video that his hatred of Russians is what keeps him going. I have to add that to that. And he's now removed the governor, as you all know, of Odessa just a few days ago. Called him a Russian agent. I think I mentioned that yesterday. Wow. Makes you wonder what's in store for the population of Odessa. Ethnically Russian people. You know, at least 90% of them are ethnical Russians, and that's his main recruiting grounds for cannon fodder to send them off to die under Russian artillery as he drags them off the street in Odessa. You know, because they're Russian, they're ethnic Russians. I think he probably thinks that's pretty cute, I guess. Anyway, let me see. Lady's coming by here. Oh, yeah, I'm not gonna. No, I'm making video. Oh gosh.
I was Skype, yeah.
So let's see if I can keep going. Anyway, I've got a guest here. So as you guys saw in the picture there. So let's see, what is this? Okay. Anyway, I was saying that there's a lot of people that went to this 20th anniversary of RT. the great grandson of Otto von Bismarck, Alexander von Bismarck, and Charles de Gaulle, I guess his son or something like that. And Alexander von Bismarck said that he came to celebrate truth and freedom of speech, which RT represents, basically, in so many words, and does not exist in Germany anymore. So, and of course, as you all know, that they banned RT in the United States, they banned it in Germany, banned it in France, they banned it in the Baltic states, they banned it. It's all banned. There's no RT there anymore. And yet, RT has a bigger global audience than any of those other countries' stations have. It's absolutely incredible. So, but anyway, it's now taken hold much more even in Africa, so lately. But think about Great Britain. Think about Great Britain. You're not allowed to do anything over there. That is probably going beyond George Orwell's 1984 stuff. Absolutely incredible. What a country. You don't want to go there, I'll tell you. Scott Ritter was also there, by the way, and I said already that Judge Napolitano was there, and he didn't really hold back either. I think it was some guy. Anyway, he's a decent guy, Judge Napolitano. I didn't remember exactly what he said. So let's see. And if you think back 20 years ago when RT was starting, you'd never thought that they would have more freedom of speech in the press coming out of Russia with Sputnik, RIA Novosti, RT, and others. I think they still even have Pravda. But it's far more truthful than anything that you have coming from the West. It's absolutely unbelievable. And remember back in the days when we were told how unfree and how unfair it is, and lies and things from the Soviet stuff. So, yeah. So let's see. I talked about Milei. Otherwise, right? Oh, Donald Trump. He increased some aid to him, raised it to $40 billion. I'm sure Marjorie Taylor Greene is not going to like that when she's mentioning how few people have health care in America, and everybody in Israel is covered with health care thanks to the United States taxpayer. And I think a lot of the people in Ukraine, like the pensioners, their pensions, of course, are paid by the American people as well from the taxes. And I think probably a lot of their health care is also paid probably by the United States as well. I don't know how many Americans are watching this, but, why don't you send me some money too? Yeah, let's see. Okay, like I was saying already at the beginning, that one of these boats, at least one of these boats that was bombed by Trump, turned out to be fishermen. At least one. I kind of suspect that there's actually more. I've seen these like fishing boats from Venezuela. They're actually bigger ones than that. They actually, they don't even, a lot of them don't go fishing. They smuggle diesel fuel to the resorts in other places, because the country that I was in, they put too much tax on diesel fuel and things like that. So the Venezuelans would smuggle it in. And I think they also at times did smuggle drugs, but very small amounts. Stuff that would fit in the pockets of this thing here. And that's all they would bring. And, when the customs were going to search these people, somebody threw something overboard. Turned out there was a big shooting thing. I don't know. It wasn't like loads and loads of drugs or something like that. Certainly. But there were fishing boats without fish some of the time. That was a big stink. And the prime minister of that country let these guys go. That's when Hugo Chavez was the leader. So, let me see. Let's see what else here. Anyway, it was, I think, the leader of Colombia was saying that, he was also saying that these people are fishermen, and that it has nothing to do with fentanyl. That none of these, I don't think, as a matter of fact, even if there are drugs, it has nothing to do with fentanyl. It's not fentanyl down there. It would probably be cocaine, maybe even marijuana but it's not fentanyl. And that's the big problem in the United States. I think that's what the president of Colombia was saying. Their big problem is fentanyl. And there is no fentanyl going through there. I think if there are any, it's going through Mexico. Huh. Wow. And maybe it's even done by the CIA. Wow. So anyway, this admiral that had to resign after that boat was at least the last one, I believe, that was a fisherman. His name is Admiral Alvin Halsey. He was in charge of the Southern Command, which also, covers South America as well as the Caribbean. So yeah, he suddenly retired after that boat was, yeah. Hmm. Oh, and that was six people were killed on that boat. No due process, as Rand Paul was saying. None of these people get due process. Just trust us. They were drug dealers, just like Soleimani and 16 other people that all died there. And there was never any court of law or any due process whatsoever. All these people are probably want this bench here. People walking by here. Yeah. Oh, that organization, Pearl, P-U-R-L, prioritized Ukraine requirements list. It's actually a Christmas wish list for Zelensky, apparently. And Donald Trump is the one that set this up. And it's for everybody to pitch in, sending you weapons. And, if you don't have the weapons, you pitch in some money and you get the weapons that Ukraine wants, and like Tomahawks or something like that. So, but that was started by Donald Trump. And it's actually, you can just call it the Hate Russia Club, because that's what it is. It's weapons to be used against Russia. And it's Santa Claus, I want a bike. Unwrapped all this other junk and there's nothing that I like. So I'll give you ho ho ho. See what let's see on your Christmas wish list. 20 countries of NATO have already signed up to that already. There was a politician, probably from opposition, but I don't know, from Finland, and he made a tweet that states that each time Zelensky gets weapons, he gets more and more arrogant, and so that's not a good thing. I don't know, I haven't tried to watch all this stuff. Yes, okay, and I mentioned already Israel. Did I mention Israel hit a car? I think it was yesterday, killed 11 civilians, probably children as well. There are reports that in some instances Israel is blocking the aid, and it's a lot of time they had people filming themselves blocking the aid trucks, and they're Israeli citizens, settlers more than likely. Yeah, these Nazis, Zio-Nazis, I guess they call them. So what else? And the police are not really, like it's normal. They're very lazy to respond. They didn't do anything there. Young ladies for some of you guys here. Shut up! Crows up there. Yes. Did I say already that this Alaska tunnel was being considered by Russia for 6 months? They're trying to find out the feasibility of doing that. And also it's turned out from Iraq that thousands of Iraqis want to join the Russian army. And maybe they're going to try to, but they're actually not going to try to put them in, because Russia says they have no lack of manpower. There's a lot of people that already want to join that. So there's no lack there. Oh, and I was going to tell you about Alexander Dugin, who's the father of Daria Dugina, that got assassinated by Ukraine. And he's got a cool beard, I don't know. Mine probably may not look that good. But anyway, he's I think he's a political philosopher, very smart guy. He made some thought-provoking statements. He said, Trump is Caesarian. And I was thinking, what is that, Caesarian? And his explanation, I was trying to but anyway, he said, meaning both he's a product of the deep state and opposition to it, a product of the opposition to it as well. As you know, and you all know that. You all know that part. And you say, oh, yes. And I was trying to wonder, well, how does this make him Caesarian? And I was remembering, you guys might remember, maybe you don't know, I don't know. But Caesar was claiming that he was also part God, that he was some kind of offspring, maybe from Apollo. Get my Greek gods, was it Apollo? And I think it was Apollo. It was the Roman father god there or something. Anyway, so that's all I'm saying. So in other words, he was human and God at the same time, according to them anyway. And Dugan says correctly when he describes Trump's attitude to neocons and globalists, you know. He look at like when he with John Bolton and all this. Yeah, it's very strange. I keep saying that it's very difficult trying to figure out Donald Trump, a lot of things, you know. So, and Medvedev, he wrote a very intellectual tweet. I like Medvedev. A lot of time he has a lot of this deep thought in there, and it's you have to think, wow, that's really interesting. So he hinted that Trump was playing the global community or the global opinion with his threat of the Tomahawks, suggesting he suggested Russia didn't play. They didn't play this game. And Donald Trump, I think he even admitted that in the White House. I think somebody was asking him, did your threat of the Tomahawks influence Russia? I think Donald Trump said, I don't think so. So it was probably based on that telephone conversation. And Medvedev was talking about that. Trump said both sides should claim victory. And that didn't sit very well with Medvedev, I guess, as far as being a feasible suggestion. He said that Zelensky's handlers, nor the opposition of Zelensky, will accept the loss of territories at all. So if they're not going to look at this as any kind of a win, you know. But of course, this was Donald Trump is right. It was a war that should not have started. Not only shouldn't it have started, it's very stupid. It's also his war as well, whether he likes to admit that or not. So Medvedev said, so this is to be continued. So he says that this war is going to be continued. New weapons will again be offered. So he's not very optimistic about this peace plan. You know, and how many times have everybody said, oh, it's going to be peace. We're very close. We're very close. But we've been hearing this for all these years. So I'll tell you what, I don't know. I try to get optimistic, but, you know, I guess you don't have to. But anyway, people, I thank you all for joining me. It's late in the evening. It's already getting dark. You might not be able to tell. Good camera on these Galaxy S23 Plus telephones. So anyhow, again, thanks for joining me. I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye.